The man in sunglasses told me I was restocking the wrong shelf. I wish I'd listened when I was 17. I worked the closing shift at a small grocery store in my town. It was quiet most nights, just the hum of freezers, flickering lights, and the faint smell of cleaning spray. Nothing ever happened there. Until one night it did. Around 11 p.m., a man walked in wearing a black hoodie and sunglasses. Sunglasses. At night. At first I thought he was just weird or high. But as I watched him drift through the aisles, I realized something was off. He didn't grab a cart, didn't shop, didn't even look at the shelves. He just walked slowly, glancing up at every security camera. And every time I looked away, he was closer. By the time he reached the register, he still had nothing in his hands. My coworker Marcy gave a shaky smile. "Can I help you find something, sir?" He tilted his head, then said softly, "You've been restocking the wrong shelf." Marcy blinked. "What shelf?" He raised one finger and pointed to aisle 6, the cereal aisle, then turned and walked out. No words, no purchases, just gone. We stared after him for a while before Marcy whispered, "That was weird." After closing, I went to aisle 6. Everything looked normal at first, but one row of boxes on the bottom shelf was pushed too far back. I reached behind them and felt something cold and metallic. It was a small brown paper bag, taped shut. Inside were a few old silver coins and a folded note that said only, "Not again." I showed Marcy. She turned pale and said, "Don't touch it. Just don't." The next morning our manager came in, looked at the bag and said he'd handle it. When I checked the security footage later, my heart dropped. The man was walking down aisle 6, but in the reflection on the freezer glass, there was no one there. The cops brushed it off, said maybe it was a glitch. A week later, the manager quit. Marcy stopped showing up for nights. And a few months later, after I'd quit too, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just an envelope, inside a single silver coin and a note. It said, "You moved the wrong shelf this time." I wish I'd listened. It had been 8 months since I quit the grocery store when the letter arrived. No return address, just a plain white envelope with my name written in small, shaky handwriting. Inside was a single silver coin, old, worn down with a hole punched straight through the center, and a folded scrap of paper that read, "You moved the wrong shelf this time." I stared at it for a long time before laughing nervously. It had to be a prank. Maybe Marcy messing with me. But then I remembered she'd blocked the store's group chat after quitting. And the manager, he'd vanished, like actually disappeared. The owner said he'd moved out of state, but his apartment was still full of his stuff. I told myself it was just some weird coincidence and tossed the envelope in a drawer. But that night I dreamed of aisle 6. The shelves were empty, stretching out endlessly. The hum of the refrigerators was louder than it should have been, and I could hear someone whispering, "Not again." I woke up drenched in sweat. The next day, I drove past the store on impulse. It was closed permanently. The windows were boarded up, the sign half torn down. A for lease banner flapped in the wind. The place looked dead, but I swear I saw a faint light flicker inside. I parked across the street and watched for a few minutes. Then the front doors creaked open. Just a crack. And for a split second, I saw a figure standing inside, tall, still wearing a hood. The reflection from the glass hid his face, but I didn't need to see his eyes to know who it was. I left before my brain could convince me to go in. That night, the dreams came back. Only this time, I wasn't inside the store. I was outside, looking through the windows. Someone was restocking shelves in the dark, placing those same brown paper bags behind boxes. The figure turned toward me, and I saw myself. 3 days later, I got another letter. This one was thicker. Inside were 2 coins, both darker than the first, and another note, "Stop moving them." That was it. No explanation, no address. Just that. I started losing sleep. I couldn't focus at work, couldn't stop thinking about that damn aisle. I even Googled old news about the store. There wasn't much, just the same article about it shutting down. But then I found something buried deep in the search results. Local teen found dead in supermarket storage room, 1989. The photo showed the same store, same sign. The article said a 17-year-old stock boy had gone missing during his shift. They found him 2 days later, behind a shelf in the stockroom. He'd been crushed, suffocated under fallen boxes. But the weird part, there were old silver coins scattered around him. The manager at the time told police they had no idea how the shelves collapsed. The store reopened a few months later. I kept scrolling through old records. Turns out the property had changed ownership 3 times, and every single manager either quit or vanished. I knew I shouldn't go back there. But at 2 a.m., I grabbed a flashlight and did anyway. The building was quiet, the air stale. The back door lock was broken, so I slipped in easily. Dust coated everything. Shelves stood like skeletons in the dark. My footsteps echoed as I made my way to aisle 6. When I shined my light down the row, my chest tightened. Someone had restocked it. Neatly. Boxes lined perfectly from front to back, fresh labels, no dust. I pulled one box aside, nothing. Another, nothing. Then I reached the bottom shelf. The tape on the floor had been peeled up and moved slightly, like the shelf had been shifted forward. My hands were shaking as I crouched and looked underneath. There was a gap, a small rectangular hole in the wall. I pushed the shelf back and felt cold air rush out. Inside, I saw brown paper bags stacked neatly, each sealed with tape, each labeled with dates, going back decades. The newest one read, July 16, 2025. Tomorrow's date. Before I could process it, I heard a faint shuffle behind me. I turned my light around, no one. But when I looked back, the bags were gone. The hole in the well was gone. It was just a solid surface again. I stumbled backward, heart racing, and sprinted for the door. But the aisles didn't line up the same anymore. I turned left, then right, but every path led back to aisle 6. The same boxes. The same cereal. The same silence. Then I heard a whisper right next to my ear. You moved it again. I swung my light toward the voice and saw him, the man in sunglasses, standing at the end of the aisle. Only now the lenses were cracked, and behind them his eyes were completely white. He didn't move, didn't blink. I froze. What do you want from me? He tilted his head. It's not about me. Then the lights flickered on, one by one down the aisle, each flash revealing something different. First he was gone. Then the shelves were empty. Then the floor was covered in silver coins. When the last light came on, I was standing alone. I bolted for the exit and didn't stop running until I reached my car. I was shaking so hard, I dropped the keys twice before getting the engine started. When I looked up, I saw movement in the store window. Someone had turned the lights off again. But for just a moment before everything went dark, I saw my own reflection, and behind it, me restocking shelves. I didn't tell anyone what happened. Who would believe me? I tried to convince myself it was stress or that I'd imagined it. But then the dreams started again, this time not in the store but in my apartment. I'd wake up to find silver coins on my kitchen counter. Paper bags sitting by the door. The first few nights, I threw them away. But every time I did, they came back. More of them. Each with a different date written in red marker, future dates. One of them said August 3rd. My birthday. That morning, I found another envelope in my mailbox. No coin this time, just a Polaroid photo. It was taken inside the closed store, aisle 6. And in the middle of the frame was me, standing there, flashlight in hand. Only I hadn't taken that picture. I turned it over. On the back, written in the same shaky handwriting, the shelf moves tonight. I couldn't sleep after that. Every creak in the apartment made my heart jump. I kept checking my phone, waiting for sunrise. Around 3 a.m., I heard it metal scraping. Not outside. Inside. I grabbed my phone's flashlight and followed the sound to the kitchen. My refrigerator had been pulled 6 inches away from the wall. Behind it, something dark was smeared across the tile. Dust, or mold, or maybe something else. I reached out and touched the wall. It was cold and it moved. A small square section shifted inward, like a hidden door sliding open. Behind it was a black void, no pipes, no wires, no studs. Just empty space that went on. And from inside that darkness came a whisper, low and familiar. Wrong shelf again. The wall slammed shut. I left town that morning, packed what I could, got in my car, and drove until my gas light came on. I found a cheap motel off the highway and told myself I'd sleep, reset, forget everything. But the next morning, when I stepped outside, I froze. There, sitting on the hood of my car, was a single brown paper bag. Taped shut. No note. I opened it. Inside were coins and a tiny square of cereal box cardboard. It read, Aisle 6, storage room. I checked my phone for news. That grocery store, the one that had been closed, had burned down overnight. Cause unknown. Firefighters said it started near the back storage area. I dropped my phone, staring at the bag. The coins were still warm. That night I dreamed again, same store, same aisles. But now, when I turned to run, I saw dozens of people stocking shelves silently. All wearing hoodies. All moving in sync. And in the middle of them, someone turned around and smiled. It was me. I'm writing this because I got another envelope today. No coin this time, no photo. Just a single scrap of paper that says, "You can't quit the night shift." And taped to the back of the note, my old grocery store name tag. Still cold.